Hello. The guest of the interview is a reputed deaf role model in India that all deaf people look up to. He has a list of inspiring success stories. He was born in Odisha, but not in a city, but in a very remote village. It would be difficult for us of today's times to live there. From this remote village, he has prospered, moved to Delhi, Mumbai, and traveled all over the world. He has gained several different experiences throughout his life. He had developed training curriculum for ISL interpreter, developed ISL science, worked on establishing college at IGNOU, established Ishara, English curriculum, and many more. Additionally, he has achieved PhD degree recently. He seems to be one of few numbers of deaf Indians to get this degree. Really amazing. Who is he? Do you want to know him? He is Dr. Sibaji Panda. Yes, Dr. Sibaji Panda from Odisha. I need to ask him questions for which we don't yet have the answers. Are you ready? Let's introduce him. Thank you for inviting me here. Welcome. I'm glad for ISH News to have this opportunity of interviewing you, one of deaf role models. I've been waiting for this opportunity and finally we're here. We, the deaf community, wanted to know more about your background. You are from the remote village of Odisha, which I cannot imagine myself living there since I'm born in a city. From the day you were born in that village to now, you have achieved remarkable heights, earning a PhD, launching various initiatives, and traveling the world. It's impossible for me to fully explain how you've changed. It would be better if you could share it with us yourself. Well, thank you for inviting me to ISH News here. I'm happy to be here. You know that remote village you mentioned so casually has since been transformed, now equipped with proper buildings, water, and electricity facilities. When I was born in 1974, that time there was no electricity in my home. I never had the concept of what electricity is at that time. I used to study in front of a lamp during the night. I thought it was a normal life at that time. I want to clarify, is it a candle? No, not the candle, the kerosene lamp. Oh, besides having no electricity, if you needed to use the bathroom, my home didn't even have a toilet. I had to carry a bucket of water and walk outside to an open area to relieve myself. It didn't matter if it was pouring rain or scorching heat, I still had to go outside for the toilet. To me, this is natural. Yes, it is safe. Safe? What about snakes? No, there's no such snakes there. So these experiences in such extreme environments strengthened me and made me more resilient. I attended a mainstream hearing school even though there were very few deaf schools available at that time. I did visit a deaf school but found the teaching quality lacking, so I chose to attend a hearing school and worked hard all the way through. I earned my BA degree in Odisha. Throughout my overall learning experience in school, I studied 99% of the material on my own. I wonder how you understood the teacher. I bunked classes most of the time. I arranged one-on-one sessions with friends, peers, and teachers who explained everything I needed to know. At the time, I considered the situation to be normal. Today, people often complain about the lack of ISL interpreters and accessibility, but these issues didn't concern me. I didn't know anything about interpreters and I didn't raise any complaints. Communication via writing seemed normal to me at that time. Visiting and asking friends to explain was okay. Some did make fun of me. There were barriers. What kind of provocation did you experience? Such examples are some made teasing or insulting remarks, but since I couldn't hear them, I was unaware. Other friends laughed at the situation when they saw I was confused. Today, the situation in schools is better, but it's still not like it was back when I had to endure those provocations. I could only rely on very close friends for help and to share lessons with me. There was no accessibility at that time. I did not demand for interpreters. I did not complain to teachers in schools or in universities or in the government. I believed that enduring hardships was just a normal part of being deaf, and I accepted it. It was such a different time back then. I endured in this manner all the way to learning my BA degree. Then I studied and achieved MA degree in Australia. At the same time, AYJ NIHH was launched in Mumbai and I was working while pursuing my studies. After some time, I earned my MA degree. And just recently, in 2024, I achieved my PhD, proudly acquiring the title Doctor. Very good. That was in January. For the past 8 years, I worked very hard. I initially thought earning a PhD would be easy, but I soon realized it wasn't. I faced the same challenges. It was challenging to communicate at the university. The interpreters weren't up to the mark, as you can imagine. The various support systems were also unclear and lacking. I drew on what I learned from past experiences of facing challenges and not giving up. I stayed committed to the challenges, overcoming them as I continued to move forward. The challenges were always present, but I never got discouraged or gave up. I faced them patiently, a resilience I developed from my childhood experiences in the village. With the strength of that patience, I moved forward steadily and earned my PhD degree. I have an intriguing question about your childhood that I wanted to ask. These days, I have noticed that in several colleges of art, photography, and other fields, one or two deaf students who have been mainstreamed into hearing environments are struggling to progress. The challenge stems from their inability to communicate effectively due to being deaf, and they often face insults from the hearing classmates. Given this, I wanted to ask, how did you manage to overcome similar pressures and not give up? What life lessons have helped you persevere? Well, it's true, and honestly, it's hard to explain. My time was 3 generations before today. During my time, things were different. In the middle generation, interpreters began to appear because the deaf community started demanding accessibility. In this current generation, deaf individuals are much more determined, insisting on having interpreters. I've lived through these 3 generations and observed them closely. I'm perhaps the most patient, as I've never complained or demanded an interpreter. Additionally, I've had strong reading and writing skills. So whenever I was provoked, I simply ignored them and focused on my goals through books and research. My emphasis has always been on the importance of gaining knowledge through reading. Unfortunately, many deaf individuals today lack strong reading skills and quickly affects their confidence. The key issue is that they need to focus on develop their reading and writing skills first. Fascinating perspective. Hey sir, I have a curious question. After completing your BA degree in Odisha, you could have secured a stable government job with great opportunities like in the railways or RBI, etc. But instead, you chose to shift your focus towards deafness and dedicate your life to this field. What inspired you to make that change? Good, interesting question. I want to share the fact that I received a job offer from the government to work in the railways after completing my BA studies. That was good. I interviewed and was selected for a position with the railways. At the same time, I received an offer from AYJ NIHH for a 3-month contract. After carefully comparing both offers in my hands, I chose to accept the position with AYJ NIHH. It is only a contract. I tore up the offer from the government railways. Why? Because the other offer involved teaching, something I was passionate about from the start. I had always dreamt of being a teacher. The AYJ NIHH offer was related to ISL development and teaching students. Looking into the future, I saw it as a golden opportunity with immense value for the next 20, 40, or even 50 years. This was an investment in deaf education, building interpreters, and enhancing accessibility. Recognizing its importance, I chose to discard the railway offer. I knew my family was upset, but I had to follow my dreams. Accepting the AYJ NIHH offer, I moved to Mumbai and began my work here. I'm sure your family was very pleased when you received the railway job offer. However, they must be very upset when you decided to turn it down. Yes. Tell me more. It was dangerous. They were extremely upset. Imagine turning down a stable long-term government job for the uncertainty of a 3-month contract. My father was surprised by my decision and was urging me to use my common sense. But I remained steadfast in my decision. It was driven by my heart and passion. I made my choice and was fully committed to following through with it. I discarded the other offer and came to Mumbai to work under the contract. There were no issues with the work and I made significant progress. Today we have interpreters and deaf ISL teachers, realizing the dream I once had. If I had taken the railway job, none of these advancements would have ever occurred. I see that your dedication to education has significantly improved accessibility for the deaf community in 2024. The impact you've made is truly big. I'm really proud of your achievements. If you didn't exist, it's hard to imagine what life would be like for the deaf community. How does your family react to your achievements now? Years ago, they were very upset with your decision to pursue a career in the education field. What are their thoughts now? When I moved to Mumbai to work at NIHH's ISL cell, I began training interpreters and ISL teachers and enjoyed meaningful interactions with the deaf community. We learned a great deal from each other. At that time, I predicted that in 20 years, there would be significant expansion and new developments in the initiative. Now, in 2024, I am truly satisfied and happy with what I've accomplished. The change has been notable, but not only in NIHH, but also within the government with the establishment of ISLRTC. We have seen growth in number of ISL interpreters and accessibility and an increase in deaf teachers. Seeing these changes, I realized that if I had stayed with the railway job, I would have benefited only myself, not the broader deaf community. My family was amazed with me. Earlier, my parents were upset with my decision. Now they were surprised that I managed to travel abroad as they had never even left their state or been on an airplane. For them, it was hard to believe that I, being deaf, could travel internationally, have a job, and achieve success. They find it difficult to express how proud they are of my achievements. Thus, I have proven that my decision to leave the railway job was indeed the right one. Truly, it is an inspiring story to me. The moral of the story is that if you pursue money or remain in your comfort zone, you may never achieve great things. True success comes from following your passion and having the determination to reach your goals. Sibaji's story has inspired me. What an achievement! Thank you. Let me tell you about the special school for the deaf in Odisha. It is called Happy Hand School. Let's find out what is the sign for the school. It is a beautiful sign. Happy Hand School was founded by you. What is your vision for this school? Well, I want to share that many years ago, my brother, who was also deaf, and I planned to establish a school. However, I was hesitant because we lacked the necessary funds to run it, so we abandoned the idea. This was in 1994, and we stopped pursuing the school establishment. As time passed, around 2013 or 2014, we rediscussed the idea. During my visit to the New Mexico School for the Deaf, NMSD in America, where I stayed for 15 days, I observed the students. I was impressed by how they could express poems in sign language and write sentences. I realize that deaf students in India are just as capable. Are American students better than Indian students? No, they're human and possess the same level of intellect. As an educator, I understand this well. I question the purpose of acquiring knowledge in deaf education and working in the UK and earning a high income. So I decided to sacrifice my job in the UK despite the significant salary. After a long thought, I made a firm decision to sacrifice the job and make a bold move to India. Upon moving, I established the school with just 8 students in my small house. My mission was to nurture their creativity, problem-solving skills, and learning curve. Although I had studied the field through books from the USA, I realized that those methods couldn't be directly applied to Indian students. So I set the books aside, began observing the students for the next 3, 6, and 9 months. The observation was enlightening and allowed me to develop methods based on my findings. These children demonstrated the ability to learn, write, communicate, and solve problems independently. With these academic methods, the school has grown and expanded. No, it is a failure. The rock, if you dig and put a rock in the underground and cover it with the mud, I see that the plant does not grow from the rock. Then how can you eat? There would be no food, no fruits, no vegetables. If there's no plant, can you eat the rock? No. I owe a lot of thanks to my deaf brother. Why? Because when we were children, I attended a hearing school where I was able to read and write, while he was at a deaf school and couldn't even spell simple words like water. I was shocked to see how illiterate my brother was. Although I tried to teach him at home, it became clear that his deaf school was not providing adequate instruction. He also mentioned that the teachers were ineffective, but I struggled to understand the issue fully at the time. As I grew older, I realized that the problem lay in the flawed education methods used by those deaf schools. This understanding drove my determination to revolutionize the system. That was my goal. While Happy Hand School may be small, its concept is powerful. I aim to apply this idea across all deaf schools and solve the issues. What is your long-term vision? My vision is that deaf must acquire the right method of education, not the incorrect, low quality, or inaccessible system. Deaf individuals should have access to the same quality of education as hearing individuals, with clear access to information, equal opportunities for writing and reading, and a full understanding of concepts. Deaf individuals should acquire general knowledge about the world as it enhances their communication skills. This will lead deaf to becoming leaders who can be teachers or principals in deaf schools. The deaf can earn PhD degrees who will then guide the deaf children of future generations. I plan to create and train 20 to 50 teachers from among my students given the limited time I have. These teachers will in turn inspire 1 million others with visions. While some believe that changing the world requires advocacy and protests, I am convinced that making a small change within the education system can lead to significant progress, but it will take time and a lot of patience. Very inspiring. What is the sign name of your brother? This is his sign name. Hi Ramji Panda sir, I applaud you for your role in encouraging Sibaji sir, which led him to establish the school. I'm genuinely thrilled about this achievement. Sibaji sir, there are approximately 600 to 700 deaf schools in India. What motivated you to establish Happy Hands School? What unique difference does it make? I'd like to understand. Alright, I know what you meant. Yes, there are many deaf schools in India and I've personally visited most of them. However, I wasn't satisfied with how the children were being taught. Many students couldn't read or write even though they were proficient in signing. It felt like their full potential wasn't being tapped into. I've observed this over the past 25 years. On top of that, when I looked at my brother and my deaf friends, I wasn't content with their educational background either. Some schools relied heavily on oral methods, while others used odd, inconsistent sign languages. A few schools adopted sign language and the children were fluent in ISL, but they had no teachers fluent in ISL. So it was not clear how they teach children. There were communication gaps, accessibility barriers, and different problems which are observed in those schools. Ironically, based on my studies, teaching via method of bilingualism is supposed to be successful as proved in American and European institutions. I realized what is the use of me studying this method and seeing the failure of this method in some schools. This drove me to establish my school, which should be completely different from these schools. I know the key points of bilingual education and I applied those in the Indian way of teaching. In this, all the teachers of my school are deaf. Every student in my class should not be confused communicating with teachers via ISL. When a new student enrolls in my school, they must be taught ISL first. The bilingual education, everyone must communicate fluently via ISL. The deaf children acquire or were taught ISL as their mother language. Once after they have understood the concept of fluent communication, they are often taught a second language, could be English or Marathi or others, and they can write as well. Let's compare. For hearing children, there are no special schools. Whatever the language is spoken at home, whether it be Marathi, Hindi, etc., the child grew up acquiring it. Then when they attended the school, they can learn English as a second language as well. The foundation is that they acquire their mother language first, then they can learn English via the first language. The very same concept applies for the deaf with ISL. Yes, correct. There's no difference at all. It's nothing new. The education method I apply in my school is successful. This school has excelled in the ecosystem of education, making it more suitable for the deaf students. And they learnt very quickly. I felt good knowing about this. Bilingual education is incredibly important and I really admire how you've implemented it along with the ecosystem. Most schools in cities rely on electricity, lights, ACs and convenience, but your school stands out. It is powered by solar panels and even uses farming, creating a self-sustaining ecosystem that's truly remarkable. No, that's not what I meant. No. The concept of ecosystem of education is different. The one you talk about, solar panels and other features, we do have them. This is eco. Eco refers to things like green plants, solar energy and waste management concepts you're all familiar with. Apart from eco, we also have the concept of an ecosystem. Let me give you an example. Where does rainwater come from? First, sunlight causes water to evaporate and forms clouds which are carried by the wind and eventually falls as rains. It is a continuous cycle with each step depending on the other. Can we control this? We cannot. It runs on its own. It's a series of interconnected events that sustains one another. Now let's consider how deaf students succeed in education. A deaf student attends school but can't understand the teacher's spoken words. This breaks their ecosystem of education. At home, the deaf child sits silently while their parents have conversations they can't follow, missing out on learning opportunities. When communication flows without gaps, when language, knowledge, teachers, classes, and books are all well connected and support each other, the deaf can receive a successful education much like the water cycle. That's what I mean by the ecosystem of deaf education. Oh, very interesting. I see that your ecosystem is truly unique, something we don't see in any other deaf schools across India. Once this approach becomes widely known, I believe all deaf schools in India should adopt this system. It's an innovative method for education. In India, there are many deaf schools already established, yet students continue to face several challenges in their learning journey. What changes do you suggest should be implemented in these schools to ensure deaf students can learn effectively and truly progress? That's a great question, but my response might not offer an easy fix to changing the entire system. At Happy Hands School, I focus on research and identifying key elements of an ecosystem for education, like having deaf teachers. Secondly, based on historical observation, here's where the core problem lies. All the deaf schools follow a system, not an ecosystem, but a different, flawed system. The government, schools, and even parents have never asked deaf people directly, what kind of education system do you want? Instead, they have made this decision on their own. For instance, they encouraged deaf children to wear hearing aids only to realize later they weren't helpful. Then they tried cochlear implants and found they didn't always work either. After that, they attempted to introduce ISL in schools but realized there weren't enough qualified ISL teachers. This pattern of trial and error without consulting the deaf community has resulted in repeated failures. What needs to happen is clear. The deaf themselves, along with deaf experts, should be involved. Bringing them into meetings, listen to their experiences, and gather their ideas about the best teaching methods. Has this been done? Never. Instead, they rely on hearing experts to draft proposals, ignoring deaf insights and continuing with a hit or miss approach. This is fundamentally wrong. Now that there are deaf educators, they should be at the table, actively discussing and outlining the most important points. The government always listens and adopts some of the suggestions, and it has not raised any objections. Before start of the plan, deaf individuals have ideas. You have some ideas. They have some ideas. However, the planner ignores them all. This is wrong and their inputs are missing. Deaf individuals have the solutions. All you need to do is listen and gather them. Sadly, this hasn't been the case so far. I truly hope that in the future, the best approach will be to involve deaf professionals in decision making and planning. Only then we will see real improvements. Alright, as you know, the ISL cell in NIHH was launched to conduct courses for ISL interpreters and deaf teachers. After its inception, Sibaji became the first teacher to lead these efforts. How do you recall the experience of planning the curriculum for these courses, and since then, what changes have you observed over the years? A happy story indeed. Back in 2001, when the ISL cell was inaugurated, there was a lot of work happening even before the launch. Professor Ulrich hired me to develop the ISL course, but at that time, I wasn't fully aware of ISL itself. She encouraged me to observe and learn as we worked together. It was during that time I realized ISL has its own grammar and structure. We worked diligently to create level A, B, and C courses for ISL. Fortunately, the director of NIHH called upon me to coordinate the launch of the ISL cell. Now, over the years, the number of interpreters have grown, which was the main objective of the ISL cell from the start. Deaf students have also evolved into teachers. The vision I had in 2001 has borne fruit by 2024, and I'm deeply satisfied and very grateful, especially for the support and funding from the government. Back then, the government wasn't too eager to launch the ISL cell because promoting ISL was considered a primitive idea. But today, the government fully supports ISL, encouraging the growth of ISL interpreters, launching ISL RTC and integrating ISL interpretation in TV news and even the president's speeches. Seeing this widespread awareness today is great. Indian national anthem is played across the country, especially in movie theatres before films begin. However, I've noticed that in some cases it was sung in ISL. Various versions of national anthem in ISL have been uploaded on YouTube. I recall that the very first video of the anthem in ISL was made by you. What inspired you to create this video, the first of its kind in Indian history? Thank you for noticing that. What happened was, while working in the ISL cell at NIHH, during a discussion, Professor Ulrich mentioned that there were versions of the national anthem in sign language in countries like Germany and the USA. She asked, "But what about India?" That question sparked the idea in me. I immediately began drafting the Indian national anthem in ISL on paper and called on students for feedback. Initially, they weren't too keen on signing it word by word. They preferred it in the abstract style, more aligned with ISL's natural flow. Not long after, the government in Delhi contacted me asking if I could create the national anthem in ISL. Fortunately, I'd already been working on it, so I produced the first video wearing just a simple shirt. I still have that video, and when I sent it to the government, they were delighted. I don't know what happened afterwards. Later, I visited the IDBA school in Indore, where I taught the anthem to the students and showed them the video. The students with ISL as a native language learned it incredibly fast. After that, several versions of the anthem in ISL began appearing and spreading. People often didn't know who translated it first. I'm not one to boast, but I do think it's important for people to understand the history of ISL. It is thanks to you, Sibaji sir, that we can now truly understand and connect with our national anthem through ISL. Otherwise, many deaf people would have just simply stood during the anthem without grasping its meaning. Your work of national anthem with ISL fills us with immense pride for our country. What is your vision for deaf education 10 years from now? It's a complicated vision and not easy to visualize. But based on past observations, I believe significant changes will unfold over the next 10 years. The number of deaf teachers has increased already, and many deaf individuals are showing a strong interest in pursuing higher studies. I hope universities will establish specialized programs for the deaf, including interpreting services. In 10 years, I envision around 25 deaf individuals either acquiring or working towards PhDs. Cheers, very good. My goal is for the students at Happy Hands to not only read and write proficiently, but to also pursue MA degrees. Their success in academics is a personal mission for me. I have always encouraged deaf individuals to continue their studies. I established Ishara and BA in IGNU. However, I've seen some deaf students who, when faced with obstacles, decide to give up. No, deaf must overcome. Without persistence in their studies, my vision of change would be incomplete. Any efforts to improve educational programs or the quality of interpreters will be futile if deaf individuals do not excel in their studies. It's not enough to be content with passing the 10th or 12th standard. Deaf students need to push further, even if the system, interpreters, teachers, or infrastructure are lacking. The deaf must push themselves further, and they can change the future. This future will be barrier-free because deaf educators like us are responsible for shaping it. Blaming others won't bring change. Good, cheers. Now, for the audience watching us, what message would you like to share with them? Well, thanks. My final message to everyone. As deaf individuals, We are just humans as our hearing counterparts. Historically, the lack of awareness among governments, families, and schools has led to inadequate accessibility for the deaf community. While this was a challenge in the past, it should not persist in the future. A crucial issue is the lack of language acquisition among many deaf children. Some only know a limited number of words, just 10 to 50, which is unacceptable. So far, I have seen government working positively towards the development. But I urge the government not to forget these children and address their language deprivation urgently. This issue is akin to death sentence for their future. If you engage teaching them incorrect methods and if the methods are proved to be a failure, who will take responsibility for the future of these children? No one. Language deprivation from children needs to be stopped. That is the one point. Secondly, for the deaf community, my message is I have observed a troubling trend where many do not put in honest efforts into their studies. Some resort to copying, bribery, and other dishonest methods to pass exams. It is essential to take your education seriously as it is key to solving current and future challenges. You deaf individuals have often focused on your own needs and jobs rather than the broader needs of the community. We must unite and demand our rights from the government. If you feel inadequately prepared in Standard 12, BA or MA, then resorting to other shortcuts is not the solution. With lack of colleges for the deaf, a shortage of deaf teachers, and rising illiteracy rates, blaming the government alone is not productive. There are many other ways. Instead, analyze the ecosystem I mentioned earlier, identify the gaps in your own life, and address them. Without these efforts, the deaf community will remain marginalized for generations and be labeled as disabled with their potential unrealized. They will be quiet and earn monthly pension for life. If you truly want change, you must put tremendous efforts into your studies. Stop wasting time on distractions like pulling others down or getting caught up in petty politics. Blaming the government or teachers won't bring any real purpose. Make the best use of the resources available to you today and push yourself to excel in your education. I never complained about the lack of interpreters, and yet I studied diligently to earn my PhD. Now, while some colleges provide interpreters, deaf still complain about transportation or other inconveniences. Deaf individuals need to reflect. If you want to reach success, you must work hard, face challenges, and push yourself forward. I hope you don't see this as negativity. I just want you to think about the future where you will stand, not just as individuals, but as a community. Thank you.